Greetings! Dracovin, and welcome once more. We're going to be diving back into Golarion today. Yes, we're learning about some Pathfinder lore. I hope all of you out there are ready to join me today. Today's going to be an interesting one because we're talking about a rare ancestry, the Strix. Let me leave my headphones on. I forgot I had those on. I was listening to something before we started. Anyway, let's head down to Golarion. Let's get our adventuring gear on. Pick up your swords, your shields, your spell books, your daggers, whatever you need. We're heading to Golarion. We're heading back down to the bar. Alright, so let's get started, though, with some basics of the Strix. And I'm going to tell you some of my sources that I went over for this, because I do want to keep you informed of that. So here are the books you need to know. I did not put those on. A fool, I tell you. I made a mistake. Inner Seed World Guide. The other one that I used a lot of that I would recommend if you want to dive a little deeper than me is the Hell's Revel Kintara book has it in there. And of course the Lost Omens, the Ancestry Guide from 2nd edition. So those are just books. You can check them out. I use that in combination with Archives Nethys and White Wolf and the Pathfinder Wiki sites to help you figure out what's going on. Alright, sorry. We got a little distracted there, kind of setting up everything here, but we really do have to discuss the Strix. Who are they? What are they? Well, Strix is a term that can be both used singular and plural, and as you can see here, they are winged humanoids. The one region that they are particularly known as is living in Avastian, in an area known as Devil's Perch in Cheliax. There are rumors of them being in other places, but nothing is confirmed. There's stories about where they came from because they're not native to there. Again, there's all stuff we're going to talk about today. They also have this reputation by locals of being very negative. It's mainly because they want to be left alone and keep people out of their territory. And when people invade their territory, they aren't nice about it. So, yeah. It's just unfortunate a lot of encounters like that lead to negative images of the Strix in local minds, particularly. Now, if you would see a Strix, they do appear humanoid at first glance. Maybe human, maybe a little bit of, like, elven kind of features, but their darker skin, sometimes over toward jet black, is very distinguishable. And, of course, their massive wings. Their 12-foot raven-like wingspan is very noticeable. When it comes to their physiology, though, inside of them are not very humanoid in comparison to elves and humans. They are very much so bird-like, and particularly owl-like. Their bones being very strong, hollow, things like that. They do have pointed ears, slit nostrils, and their pupils, well, we could talk about their eyes, because their eyes are elongated ocular tubes like owls. It means that they get some incredibly keen eyesight, but they have to move their head and change their field of view. So, if you see sudden erratic head motions in a Strix, that can be unsettling. It's because they're doing the bird thing of, like, the twitching like this. They can't move their eyes to change their field of view, they have to move their heads. Their eyes can either be solid red or deep yellow on casual observation, but there's actually, like, also nictating membrane over their eyes, so helpful during flight to keep dust and stuff out. When they blink, you can sometimes see that extra membrane. So, yeah, that's some basics of how this Strix look. And they can be about 6 feet tall and weigh about 170 pounds. Again, hollow bones. They're a flying ancestor. They are agile, and ones that do become adventurers tend towards some nature-based things with rangers and monks, or fighting-type things with druids or rangers, fighters, monks, and rogues. So you do have an interesting selection of classes that they do tend towards, but you really don't. It's the basics of you can really do any class. So, yes, I've mentioned that they can be found in Devil's Perch, but we have to talk a little bit about them they are technically omnivores. Now, primarily they do eat meat, and they get that from their environment. Again, they're mountainous people. But berries, nuts, when they're in seasons, they will have those. Strix have been known to eat the flesh of other humanoids, but this is usually rare and in desperate times, or for, well, Strix of more sinister alignment, I can say. Children are incredibly important to Strix. Their conditions over in the Devil's Peak is very dangerous, and they actually have very low birth rates. So every birth is to be celebrated. Parents are very protective, and the entire clan is also very protective. They give the young opportunities to survive, to succeed. Mothers are the caregivers, but lots of members of the clan will help raise as much as they need. They don't recognize marriage officially, but Strix often choose one mate for life, and will have difficulty pairing again if they're separated by death. Their spiritual leader, a Wilkoa, I hope I'm saying that correctly, who's usually female, is forbidden from taking a mate because of old customs, but they are polyamorous and will have unions with multiple males, and those can produce offspring sometimes, even when the Roka is at advanced age. And for whatever reason, unknown, maybe just magic, maybe just tradition, those are female that are born there. And those are raised by the entire clan with an idea that they are going to apprentice and become another Roka. So there is some bits of stuff built into there. Now, certainly speaking, in the Devil's Perch, that it is the main place they're found, but it's not just in the spires of the Perch. Because there is a group that, one of the particular tribes that lives in the Rovinal Forest, to the north of the Perch proper. Again, they do have a dark reputation, as I kind of mentioned it. They consider everything they see from one of their largest settlements, Kirkscree, also called the Shrieking Spire, as their own, and they're territorial on it. They value every member of their society. They normally live around 40 years old, but if they're lucky, they can reach around 60. They're nocturnal. Again, they've got the eyes and their owl-like mentality. And there are some rumors about some other places. We'll talk about where those other places possibly are for them in a minute. But it is possible you can find them other places. Maybe. Alright. So, we do have to talk a little bit about their history. Because this is going to be an important part when talking about Strix. Because their history is one that is both marred by a little bit of complexity, but also by their own natural ways. Because of their natural distrust for outsiders, especially, for various reasons we'll talk about a little here, they don't really share a lot of stories. And even then, it's mostly oral tradition. It's mostly large stories. And each of the individual clans within their society has their own version of this. Yes, some things are even written down, but that's very rare. So the real truth behind a lot of their stories is muddled a lot, and there are some things that have popped up that can hint at older connections and stuff like that with others, which we will discuss a little bit here with their origins at the end, because that's some information that's more revealed in the Lost Romans World Guide, so it's maybe not everywhere that knows about the truth of the matter. So we do have some truth, but we're going to talk about everything else first. So, where does Strix come from? Well, they have their stories about it. The fact is, they know that they came from somewhere else and eventually came here to the Devil's Perch. To make a long story short, they come from an area that they call the Sky Garden. It's called the, I'm going to butcher probably, Sharat Se'ar in their language. It's an ideal land, it was the best place for them, and basically, while they were there, the Cheliax and basically the jealousy of another species there spurred them into an exile. And the story here is called The Scattered Nest of the Korsat Akari in their tongue. So they basically were powerful hunters in these sky gardens. They flourished with a lot of other there, so there was abundance. But then there was these betrayers, the Shokir, that used their trust and generosity against them. They were jealous. They conjured magical storms, destroyed the sun, and banished them into an inhospitable wasteland where they would cursed to walk the wasteland, cease to be able to see the sky, cease to be able to wander about. Again, there are some variations to this story, but this is the basic ones. And the history of it coincides somewhat with the Age of Darkness, but different clans will kind of place it before the Age of Darkness. Some will have it with the coming of the Age of Darkness. Some will have it during... It's just the basically way they say it. It's very hard to say, but this does coincide with the Age of Darkness to a degree. And again, there's a lot of mythology and, twisting the stories because it's oral traditions. So Lost in the Wilds, they lost beauty, they lost grace, they were twisted by the darkness, little more than beasts, and the sun came out again, the darkness left, and they found themselves in the mountaintops. They now settle and return to basically normalcy, their minds no longer clouded by savagery. They do believe the curse was lifted by the sun, but the effects of the wilderness has changed their forms to what it is now. So they believe that they looked different in the past, and that this is their kind of fallen form from the curse which dealt upon them for all their times in darkness, aka probably the Age of Darkness. So again, yeah. And again, they do have a written language, but because they like to keep things secret from outsiders, there's a lot of distrust. You don't see that. There are basically cave paintings that are related to the Strix in various places that have been found. Hints at them in places like the Mindspan Mountains between Nidal and Mothun. No settlement's been truly found there. Other ones that are hinted at is the Napspan Mountains in Rahadum, where there's rumors of one there. So it's like, it's not impossible that there are other Strix outside the Devil's Perch, but none of them have necessarily been confirmed, and it's more just rumors that maybe some were there, maybe they existed for a period and went extinct during that time period. Since the end of the Age of Darkness, or even during the Age of Darkness, there's a lot of things that come about with that. And the thing is, those that have left the Devil's Perch have found hostility and violence that haven't been great against them, and so some of those that believe that are in Devil's Perch believe anybody that left has gone extinct and is gone. So, yeah. It all dates back. There are histories of other cultures that talk about winged individuals that may link to them from various other sources. So, again, this is pre-Age of Darkness stuff that's been found. There's a lot of mess in this truth here. But there is actually some recent truth that has been discovered, and now we can talk the truth. Because only some Strixes know about this, and this is more related to stuff that's in the World Guide. So this is very recent stuff. So, Strixes and Syrinxes, in truth, lived both in Arcadia as one people. Hey! Two species that were one. Their home was lost in the Shattered Nest Cataclysm, its location lost to time. The Strix scholars of Arcadia once maintained that the Strix had been altered in the past to serve them as warriors and slave masters, but after separating and migrating, each group long believed the other had perished. Sons reuniting, since they have reconnected, they welcome each other as relatives and have grown culturally as a result. So there is some development here with the Shrinks, who are head, wings, and feet of owls. Humanoids in Arcadia. So it does seem like they have this linked past. Again, the true history of everything, of losing that original home, of the separating them, the scholars maintaining certain things about Strix, whether that's true or not, the Strix having their own stories about something of betrayers. But it does kind of mark that they are cousins, at least in a way, that have separated out and that maybe the Shrinkses are just those that remained in Arcadia, or from wherever this Shattered Nest was, and they just ended up in Arcadia. Or maybe they originally came to Arcadia and then some of them left. Again, there's still a lot of questions that really can't be answered by all this, but we do have this kind of hit of the past. And even places like the thing is, major nations post Age of Darkness knew about the Strix here. The Jiska Imperium, one of the major nations during that time, with some records, which was just after the Age of Darkness, knew of winged humanoids on Devil's Perch, but couldn't make contact with them. So there was evidence of the Strix even then, post Age of Darkness. So we do know they're in Devil's Perch after the Age of Darkness. Again, this is like written history of an ancient culture that's there. So the first big thing that happens with the Strix, historically, other than them being basically left alone, is the Even Tongue Conquest of 4081. Aspects, basically, who made Cheliax, Cheliax Empire, convinced the Strix to join him in the insurrection against the Chaldean Empire. He won independence. He offered the Strix the opportunity to join the newly formed nation, but preferred to be left alone. Basically, they had been in this area that's very inhospitable, it's very hard to settle, it's not a place that anybody wants to go to, so even though there were, Chaldean settlers in what will become Cheliax, no one really bothered with that. And this isolation lasted for some time. But the Chelish have begun to expand in the Devil's Perch, and this has developed hostility between the two. Human settlements in what is considered Strix land kind of pissed them off, and despite the original agreement that would guarantee their independence, they consider outsiders untrustworthy, hungry for their land. And this, of course, calls them to attack the human settlements, and they see these as dangerous and violent humanoids. It's this internal struggle that's now becoming in this distrust, this doubt, which also, again, this distrust has sowed distrust between the clans. We'll talk about that in a minute for the society, but it's this overall distrust that's been brought about by the betrayal of the Chelaxians, in a way, in their eyes, has brought about distrust. And I can say there is some things about their society which makes this a combination of, in ways, actual betrayal, and in ways, misunderstanding. Which is unfortunate, but true. Alright. So, let's talk about their society to finish up. Historic value is important. It's not something we can deny about. But being insular and xenophobic means that they keep a lot of this stuff social indoor, and there is the place for miscommunication. Also, you have to consider that they consider every member of their society valuable and a representative of their clans, of what they say, what they speak. So, being this close-knit, they also believe humans are as close-knit. So they believe one's misdeed represents normal behavior for all of them. Basically, one clan will act like that as a whole. And there are a bunch of clans. There are several that live in Devil's Perch. Each have their own culture, each have their own social taboos. And those slight differences are what drive them apart. Basically, what can happen in a clan group is a smaller group can diverge away when something happens that kind of breaks them apart, and they go independent and have a perceived threat to themselves and form a new group. And that kind of deep cynicism and, the complex social cues can lead to these misunderstandings. They have a lot of words for honest, and a single word for deceit. Keep that in mind, too. So this can definitely lead to this division and forming new groups, that it will evolve the clans in different ways because they have had a misunderstanding or a different thought pattern that they cannot agree to that breaks them apart. Big thing, though, is Strix, as much as they can disagree with each other, as much as they can have conflict with each other, it's nothing to outsiders. As soon as an outside threat is seen, all the clans rally together against it. The Strix see themselves as one group, and they can argue with themselves all they want, but as soon as you, an outsider, interfere, you will see the strength of them. They're centered around the character I mentioned earlier, the Rokia, the matriarchal spiritual leader, the storyteller of the clan. They're chosen from among the Strix. They have a powerful bond with spirits, can commune with animals through nature, so basically shamans, witches, those kind of things tend to be a Rokoa. Rokoa? They're usually trained from a young age, with the intention of replacing the current one when that one dies. They learn the oral history, basically the points of view understanding of the clan's perspective, and what is true to the clan. They usually will train 2 or 3 at a time. The eldest trainee is the one that's chosen to replace, but the others will be appointed to important positions. So as a member of the trainees, it's not that you are going to, like, the eldest one's usually chosen, but it's not always the case, and even then, you will become things like healers, midwives, or other important positions to be trusted in the clan. They usually always replace an extant member of the clan to these positions, though frequently when a Rokoa dies, her trainees take the role. For all the other positions that are replaced with one lot living, their society doesn't see this as a replacement, as being a downgrade. They basically see like, hey, you've served your purpose to the clan, you've earned your honor, you can rest. We're replacing you with someone younger. It is your time to just join in the normal clan. You've done your job for us. Thank you for your service. So that's basically the replacement for when we train these younger ones to replace you for those other important positions, other than just the spiritual leader. There's also some justice. The 2 major crimes are, of course, murdering another, which will result in the one punished basically having their wings removed and left out for dead. Yeah, they're hobbled and left in the lowlands. If you divulge secrets, either to outsiders or other clans, that are secrets that are not supposed to be shared in alliance with your clan's beliefs, again, certain things are against one clan and another. One clan might not have a trouble with sharing bits of the history with an outsider, especially one that has proven maybe, but or earned their way to find that information. But others, if you just talk about that, yeah, you're usually get your wings clipped, and you're also then just exiled, and their names are never spoken of again, as if they never existed. So if you return, you're killed. They aren't particularly religious. That's an important thing to note. Though some could follow gods, there's this idea that they came from a place that was very divine in their old, that sky garden, and that fall from that curse from that, was maybe related to the gods. So they usually go for more spiritual kind of beliefs. Again, it's not necessarily that they can't have or connect to religions. Some of them do. There are some religious beliefs that they will find themselves having. Some of the spiritual practices can kind of lead to a basic understanding of something like Pharasma, or one of the more nature deities, sometimes too, like Golarion. And sometimes very specific deities can be found, like Arastal or Korag, with different versions of them within certain clans. So there is some possibility of deities, but it generally tends to be not as an important thing. Death is a very important part of their culture. They'll bury an individual, they'll mourn it for a period of time, usually a couple of weeks. And once the bones are stripped of everything and are just bones, they are actually cleaned by nature, so to say. They are dug up, and those bones are given to the family members, who use those bones for important parts of their culture. They're fashioned with weapons, talismans, fetishes. It's basically the bones of our ancestor are given back to us because of the strength and light weight of Strix bones. Remember, they are a flying being. They have hollow bones, but they're very strong hollow bones. Death of an outsider is kind of... So it's basically, if you are not a Strix, this is not as important to you. They also have a complex look at undeath, because of their general... They're a little nihilistic in the way of death, as death being the end, because not as many of them connect up deeply with deities, even if they generally do have some worship of them. So you can have an idea that the natural cycle isn't really understood as much, and undeath is not looked at as bad. There are rumors that there was a group that transformed themselves into vampires, but were defeated by a bunch of the other clans when they tried to conquer Down's Perch. Whether this is true or myth, unknown. Their language is actually a Creole language, basically a combination of some various languages. The Strix language. It's a mixture of Aslanti and Infernal. And if you speak both those languages, you can understand it. If you speak one of them, you can maybe get by. Again, there is no particular origin from the Strix language from these, but it's connected to these two. The Strix refer to themselves as Itari in their own language. Keep that in mind, too. So, again, yeah, closeness structures, just feeling the betrayal of humans, that kind of thing, you know? Even though it's technically not a betrayal, it's a misunderstanding of certain people that betray the trust. Or it could be a betrayal in these things. But, yeah, there we go. There's Strix for you today. I hope you enjoyed diving into them and learning all about them. They have a complex history and an interesting society that does come up with some issues when dealing with others. And this is not to say we don't get Strix adventurers. There are those amongst their people that feel a need to see the world, to learn, to see if there's a truth to this. But they are going to bring their society with them. It's why they're rare. Now, granted, I will also mention at this point in time, they are a legacy species in this. They come from the original Ancestry Guide. The last time we saw about them being played. So there might be some updates to their lore, but I think most of this is pretty spot on for what it's going to be. Using a combination of first and second edition lore, which we've kind of talked about. So again, maybe some changes. I don't see any major ones. It'll probably be minor changes to their nature. Maybe. A interesting society which focuses on their own history as something being very important, their own people being important, their own beliefs being their own important, but those little changes or disagreements in the way those beliefs should go lead to the fracturing in the clans as they are now. It's why Strix themselves aren't truly unified. They aren't. They are a bunch of smaller clans that maybe they don't get in major conflicts with each other, but they keep to each other. They keep separate from each other. But we see that, yeah, if you mess with one, you mess with all of them. So keep that in mind too. Don't mess with the Strix. They will not be very happy about it and work together at the drop of a hat. Yeah, that'll be it for today. I hope you enjoyed all of this. If you want to check out more of my stuff, make sure you always join me when I'm talking about this, either live or over on YouTube. Hey, I talk about tabletop stuff all the time. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays over on Twitch, and over on YouTube, it's a couple days after that. If you're joining me on Twitch, hey, follow would be great. Joining me on YouTube, liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, leaving a comment, all those things. Have any of you out there played Strix? Because I think I had someone play a Strix in a first edition game, but it was one of those time periods where I wasn't as in-depth with the lore of a lot of Golarion, so I just let them do it because it was, neat, and it's a different kind of thing that was introduced to play in there, a flying species, in a game that the flying didn't matter a lot. But, so it's like, I have that story of someone that played it, but I've never played one myself. But I'm interested in, have any of you played it out there? Have any of you had a player or played with you? Just share with that kind of stuff. I have social media linked below. Be sure to check those out. Just scheduling, tactics, all that kind of stuff. Some basic information that keeps you informed. Discord and Twitter.com/X. Alright, I'm going to get going then. We'll hang out with Twitch a little bit more over here. Maybe do another video, maybe not. We'll see. Anyway, everybody out there joining me today, I hope you had a great time. Enjoyed learning about this, and, enjoyed learning about all about the Strix and other ancestors. Until the next time we chat, I bid you a deep and farewell.